The Saurian High Commander Novak burst into laughter, his scales rippling with mirth as he watched the primitive human spacecraft struggle to achieve orbit. It was 2157, and Earth's attempts at interstellar travel were a source of endless amusement for the galactic community. John Hall, a 35-year-old aerospace engineer at NASA, gritted his teeth as he watched the aliens' mockery broadcast across every screen in the control room. He glanced down at his 10-year-old son, Tommy, who clutched his hand tightly. It was, "Bring your child to work day," and John had hoped to inspire his son with the wonders of space exploration. Instead, they were witnessing humanity's humiliation on a cosmic scale. "Dad, why are they laughing at us?" Tommy asked, his eyes wide with confusion and hurt. John knelt beside his son, placing a hand on his shoulder. "They don't understand us, Tommy. Humans have always been underestimated, but we never give up. One day we'll show them what we're really capable of." As John was called into an urgent meeting to discuss the failed launch, he left Tommy in his office, surrounded by models of spacecraft and posters of distant galaxies. The boy's eyes wandered to his father's computer, its screen glowing with complex diagrams and simulations. Curiosity overtook Tommy. He sat at the desk, his small fingers dancing across the keyboard as he accessed his father's advanced ship design software. To him, it was just another game, a puzzle to solve. He began combining shapes and propulsion theories, unaware that he was tapping into cutting-edge concepts that had eluded Earth's brightest minds. As Tommy played, an alert flashed on the screen. The system had recognized something extraordinary in the boy's creation, a design with the theoretical potential for faster-than-light travel. The computer hummed, running simulations that showed impossible speeds, energy efficiency beyond anything Earth had ever achieved. Word spread quickly through NASA. Scientists rushed to John's office, their initial skepticism turning to awe as they analyzed Tommy's accidental masterpiece. The boy had unknowingly combined elements of Earth's most advanced propulsion theories with unconventional geometric shapes, creating something revolutionary. In the Saurian embassy on Earth, Ambassador Zixtal received the news with growing alarm. He immediately contacted High Commander Novak, his voice trembling as he reported the potential shift in the balance of power. Novak dismissed the warning, unable to conceive of humans achieving such an advancement. "Impossible," Novak scoffed. "These primitives can barely reach their own moon. Increase surveillance, but take no further action. Their breakthrough is likely nothing more than a miscalculation or a desperate bluff." Meanwhile, John Hall found himself ushered into a high-security briefing room. Government officials and NASA's top brass surrounded him, their faces a mix of excitement and grave concern. They explained the situation. His son's innocent play had led to a discovery that could propel humanity centuries ahead in technological development. John's mind reeled. Pride in his son's achievement warred with fear of the enormous responsibilities and dangers that lay ahead. The U.S. government had already classified the project at the highest level, codenamed Operation Sandbox. Plans were underway to establish a secret facility in the Nevada desert to construct a prototype based on Tommy's design. As John grappled with the implications, Earth's scientific community was abuzz with carefully guarded excitement. They realized this breakthrough could allow humanity to leapfrog centuries of technological development, potentially altering their standing in the galactic community overnight. Unbeknownst to them, Saurian spies on Earth had detected unusual activity and increased security around certain aerospace facilities. High Commander Novak, his earlier dismissiveness giving way to nagging doubt, dispatched a covert team to infiltrate Earth's defenses and uncover the truth behind the swirling rumors. John Hall, now appointed lead engineer on the classified project, found himself at the center of a gathering storm. As he worked tirelessly to bring his son's accidental design to life, he was acutely aware of the need to keep the true nature of his work hidden from his family. The weight of secrecy and the potential to reshape the galaxy's power dynamics pressed heavily upon him. As the prototype neared completion in the hidden Nevada facility, tension mounted between Earth and the Saurian Empire. Humanity stood on the brink of a technological revolution, poised to challenge the very beings who had once ridiculed them. And it all began with a child's play, an innocent game that might just change the course of human history. John Hall rubbed his bloodshot eyes, the glow of computer screens illuminating his haggard face. The secret Nevada facility hummed with activity, even at this late hour. He glanced at his watch. 2:37 a.m., another night sleeping on the cot in his makeshift office. "Dr. Hall, we've got the latest simulation results," a young engineer called out, rushing towards him with a tablet. John's fatigue evaporated as he scanned the data. "These numbers, they're beyond our wildest projections." Across the vast hangar, the gleaming hull of Sandbox 1 loomed. The prototype spacecraft represented humanity's greatest technological leap, a vessel capable of faster-than-light travel, born from a child's imagination. As dawn broke over the Nevada desert, John's phone buzzed. Sarah's face appeared on the screen, her expression a mixture of concern and frustration. "John, it's been 3 weeks. Tommy's asking questions I can't answer. When are you coming home?" He swallowed hard, guilt gnawing at him. "Soon, I promise. This project, it's bigger than anything we've ever done." "Bigger than your family?" Sarah's voice cracked. Before John could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. He ended the call abruptly, sprinting towards the control room. "Status report," he barked. A technician looked up, panic in her eyes. "Sir, we've detected an energy signature matching Saurian technology. It's faint, but it's there, somewhere in the Rocky Mountains." John's blood ran cold. Their worst fears were confirmed. They were being watched. Meanwhile, in a hidden base nestled deep within the Rockies, Captain Kraz hunched over a holographic display. The Saurian operative's scales shimmered in the dim light as he analyzed intercepted communications. "Commander," one of his subordinates hissed, "we've decrypted more fragments. They mention a child, designation Tommy. He appears to be a key figure in their breakthrough." Kraz's eyes narrowed. "A child? Impossible. Unless—" His mind raced, recalling reports of the human tendency to underestimate their young. "Prepare for extraction. We must acquire this Tommy at all costs." Back on Earth, Tommy sat cross-legged on his bedroom floor, surrounded by circuitry and computer parts. His fingers flew across a makeshift keyboard, lines of code scrolling across a salvaged monitor. "Come on, Dad," he muttered. "What are you hiding?" The encrypted files on John's computer had proven a tantalizing puzzle. Tommy had managed to decrypt portions, revealing tantalizing glimpses of a revolutionary spacecraft design. His young mind, unburdened by conventional thinking, saw patterns and possibilities that others missed. In Washington, D.C., a tense meeting unfolded in a secure underground bunker. Representatives from major world powers sat around a circular table, their faces grave. "Gentlemen," the U.S. Secretary of Defense began, "what we're about to share will change the course of human history." As classified documents were distributed, gasps and murmurs filled the room. The Earth Defense Alliance was born in that moment, a coalition forged in the crucible of impending galactic confrontation. John stood before the project leaders. His proposal met with skeptical stares. "You want to bring your son, a child, into a top-secret government project?" General Hawthorne's voice dripped with disbelief. John leaned forward, his conviction unwavering. "Tommy's mind works differently. He sees solutions where we see obstacles. We're so close to a breakthrough, his perspective could be the key." After heated debate, the decision was made. Tommy would be brought into a controlled environment within the facility, his interactions carefully monitored and limited. The next day, John drove home for the first time in weeks. As he pulled into the driveway, Tommy burst out of the house, flinging himself into his father's arms. "Dad, you're back!" John hugged him tightly, savoring the moment. "Hey, champ, how would you like to see where I work?" Tommy's eyes widened with excitement. "Really? Can I?" Sarah watched from the porch, her expression a mix of relief and lingering concern. John met her gaze, silently promising explanations to come. As they prepared for the journey to Nevada, None of them noticed the faint shimmer of a cloaked Saurian scout ship passing overhead. In the secret facility, final preparations were underway for Tommy's arrival. Security protocols were tightened, and a special workstation was set up with carefully curated data and simulations. John led Tommy through the facility's main entrance, the boy's eyes wide with wonder. "Wow, Dad, this is where you work?" Before John could respond, alarms blared. Security personnel rushed past, shouting orders. John grabbed Tommy's hand, his heart racing. "We need to get to a safe room, now!" As they ran, the facility shook with the impact of explosions. Through the chaos, John caught a glimpse of something that chilled him to the bone, the sleek, predatory forms of Saurian assault craft descending from the sky. Captain Kraz's voice crackled over the Saurian comm channels. "Primary target located. Capture the child at all costs. The future of the Empire depends on it." John and Tommy raced through smoke-filled corridors, the sounds of battle echoing around them. They rounded a corner and came face to face with a Saurian soldier, its alien eyes locked onto Tommy. Time seemed to slow as John pushed his son behind him, ready to defend him at any cost. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, with a father's love and a child's genius at the center of a galactic storm. John's eyes locked with the Saurian soldiers, his body tense to defend Tommy at all costs. In that frozen moment, a deafening explosion rocked the corridor. The ceiling collapsed, sending debris crashing down between them and the alien intruder. "Run!" John shouted, grabbing Tommy's hand and sprinting in the opposite direction. They navigated the labyrinth of smoke-filled passages, alarms blaring and emergency lights casting eerie red shadows. Tommy's small legs struggled to keep up, but adrenaline and fear propelled him forward. "In here," John said, pulling Tommy into a reinforced security room. He quickly entered a complex code, sealing the heavy door behind them. Tommy's eyes were wide with a mix of terror and excitement. "Dad, what's happening? Who are those things?" John knelt beside his son, placing his hands on Tommy's shoulders. "Remember those aliens I told you about? The ones who laughed at us? Well, they're not laughing anymore. They're here because of you, Tommy, because of what you created." Before Tommy could respond, a voice crackled over the intercom. "Dr. Hall, we've secured the prototype, proceeding with emergency protocol Zeta 9. John's face hardened with tenacity. He turned to a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a small elevator. "Tommy, I need you to be brave. We're going somewhere very special, and I need your help." As they descended deep beneath the facility, John explained in hushed tones about Operation Sandbox, Tommy's accidental breakthrough, and the prototype ship that could change humanity's future. The elevator doors opened to reveal a vast underground hangar. Tommy gasped as he saw Sandbox 1 for the first time, a sleek, otherworldly craft unlike anything he'd ever imagined. "It's beautiful," Tommy whispered, his eyes tracing the ship's unconventional geometry. John led him towards a group of frantic engineers and military personnel gathered around holographic displays. "Status report," he demanded. A stern-faced general turned to them. "Saurian forces have breached the upper levels. We're initiating an emergency launch. Dr. Hall, we need you on board as chief engineer." John nodded, then looked down at Tommy. "Son, I know this is a lot to take in, but we need your help. Your mind sees things differently. You might spot solutions we've missed." Tommy's face set with drive. "I'll do my best, Dad." As final preparations for launch began, Tommy was ushered to a specially prepared workstation in the mission control area. Surrounded by advanced holographic interfaces, he felt a familiar excitement, like when he'd first played with his father's design software. John donned a sleek flight suit, hugging Tommy tightly before heading towards Sandbox 1. "Stay safe, champ. I'll see you soon." As the hangar doors above began to open, revealing a star-filled sky, alarms blared once more. "Saurian ships detected in low orbit," a technician shouted. "They're charging weapons." The mission commander's voice rang out. "Accelerate launch sequence. We need to get Sandbox 1 out of here now." Tommy watched in awe as the prototype ship's engines flared to life. Filling the hangar with a brilliant blue glow, the craft began to rise, gracefully navigating through the opening above. Suddenly, the facility shook violently. Saurian energy beams lanced down from the sky, barely missing Sandbox 1 as it emerged from the underground base. Tommy's fingers flew across his console, analyzing data streams and ship diagnostics. "The port stabilizer's been hit," he called out. "They need to adjust the field geometry, or they'll lose control in the upper atmosphere." The mission control team looked at him in surprise, quickly relaying his insight to the ship. John's voice crackled over the comms. "Good catch, Tommy. Implementing now." As Sandbox 1 soared higher, escaping the Saurian attack, Tommy continued to provide crucial insights. His unique perspective allowed him to spot patterns and solutions that eluded even the most experienced engineers. Meanwhile, in orbit, Admiral Zex watched with growing frustration as the human ship evaded his attacks. "Impossible," he snarled. "How did these primitives advance so quickly?" He opened a channel to High Commander Novak, reporting the unexpected turn of events. Back in the Nevada facility, Tommy worked tirelessly alongside the mission control team. His intuitive understanding of the ship's systems proved invaluable as Sandbox 1 pushed the boundaries of known physics. Hours passed in a blur of tense calculations and narrow escapes. Finally, John's excited voice came through the speakers. "We've done it! We've achieved faster-than-light travel!" Cheers erupted throughout mission control. Tommy beamed with pride, knowing he had played a crucial role in this historic moment. But the celebration was short-lived. Alarms blared once more as sensors detected multiple Saurian ships entering the solar system. The Claw of Dominion, an imposing battlecruiser, decloaked at the edge of Earth's gravity well. Admiral Zex's face appeared on the main view screen, his reptilian features twisted in a snarl. "Humans," he hissed, "you have upset the balance of power in this sector. Surrender your ship and the child responsible for this technology, or face annihilation." The mission commander straightened, addressing the Saurian with steely willpower. "We will not surrender. Humanity has earned its place among the stars." As tensions escalated and the threat of full-scale invasion loomed, Tommy's mind raced. He began to see connections between the Saurian technology and the principles behind Sandbox 1's design. An idea formed, a way to potentially neutralize the alien threat without bloodshed. "I need to talk to my dad," Tommy said urgently. "I think I know how we can stop them." As the fate of Earth hung in the balance, Tommy prepared to share his insight, hoping it would be enough to save humanity from the wrath of the Saurian Empire. Tommy's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "Dad, I need to talk to you now. I think I know how we can stop them." But before Tommy could elaborate, alarms blared throughout the facility. John's face paled as he recognized the specific pattern of alerts. "Oh no, they're here!" The mission commander's voice boomed over the intercom. "Attention all personnel, we are under attack. This is not a drill. Initiate lockdown procedures immediately." Chaos erupted in mission control. Technicians scrambled to secure data, while security personnel rushed to defensive positions. John grabbed Tommy's arm, his voice urgent. "We need to get you to safety." As they hurried through the corridor, the facility shook with the impact of explosions. Through a nearby window, Tommy caught a glimpse of sleek, alien drop pods hurtling towards the Earth. His eyes widened in a mix of fear and fascination. "Dad, what are those?" John's expression resolute. "Saurian commandos. They're after you, Tommy. We can't let them get you or the sandbox data." They reached a sealed blast door. John punched in a complex code, and it hissed open. Inside, a group of engineers and military personnel were frantically preparing Sandbox 1 for launch. "Change of plans," John announced. "We're evacuating key personnel and data on Sandbox 1. Now." The chosen crew, already suited up for the test flight, looked shocked but quickly adapted to the new situation. As they boarded the prototype ship, John turned to Tommy. "I need your help, son. We're going to remote pilot Sandbox 1 from here." Tommy nodded, his young face set with commitment. They rushed to a specialized control panel, and John's fingers flew across the keyboard, activating the backup remote pilot system. On the launch pad, Sandbox One's engines roared to life. The sleek ship rose gracefully, its revolutionary propulsion system allowing for a near-vertical takeoff. As it cleared the facility, the sky above erupted with energy blasts from descending Saurian fighters. Tommy's eyes were glued to the monitors, his mind racing to process the flood of telemetry data. "Dad, their port stabilizer's fluctuating. They need to adjust the field geometry." John relayed the information to the crew, marveling at his son's intuitive grasp of the complex systems. Sandbox One executed a series of impossible maneuvers, effortlessly evading the Saurian attacks as it climbed higher into the atmosphere. Suddenly, the blast doors at the far end of Mission Control exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris strode a towering figure, Captain Kraz, flanked by his elite Saurian commandos. "Secure the room," Kraz hissed. "Find the child!" John's heart raced. He grabbed Tommy and pulled him behind a bank of computers. "We need to get out of here," he whispered urgently. As Saurian soldiers fanned out through Mission Control, John led Tommy to a hidden panel in the wall. He pressed a seemingly random sequence of buttons, and a section of the wall slid away, revealing a narrow maintenance tunnel. "In here, quickly," John urged, helping Tommy into the dark passage. They crawled through the claustrophobic space, the sounds of combat echoing behind them. John's mind raced, trying to formulate a plan. They needed to stay ahead of the Saurians, coordinate with the EDA, and somehow support Sandbox One in its desperate flight. After what felt like an eternity, they emerged into a small, fortified bunker. John immediately went to work on the communication systems, while Tommy examined the array of monitors lining one wall. "Dad, look!" Tommy pointed to a screen showing a high-altitude view of Earth. A massive shape was decloaking in low orbit, the Saurian battlecruiser Claw of Dominion. John's blood ran cold. He knew Sandbox One, despite its revolutionary technology, was no match for a full-sized warship. He opened a secure channel to EDA headquarters. "This is Dr. John Hall. The Nevada facility has been compromised. Sandbox One is airborne with key personnel and data, but they're facing heavy opposition. We need immediate support." As John coordinated with EDA Command, Tommy's attention was riveted to the orbital battle unfolding on the monitors. Sandbox One danced between Saurian fighters, its impossible maneuvers leaving streaks of light against the starry backdrop. "They're doing it, Dad!" Tommy exclaimed. "They're actually beating them!" But their elation was short-lived. The Claw of Dominion moved into attack position, its massive weapon systems charging. John's face was grim as he received new orders from EDA Command. "They're activating the orbital defense platforms," he told Tommy. "It's a long shot, but it might be our only chance." On the main screen, a dozen points of light winked into existence around Earth's orbit. The experimental defense platforms, secretly constructed for just such an emergency, powered up their weapons. "Sandbox One, this is Dr. Hall," John spoke into the comm system. "Fall back to defensive formation Delta. The cavalry's coming." As Sandbox One retreated, the orbital platforms unleashed a barrage of energy beams at the Claw of Dominion. The Saurian battlecruiser's shields flared under the assault, but held. Admiral Zex's voice crackled over an open channel. "Pathetic humans, did you really think your primitive weapons could harm us?" The Claw of Dominion returned fire, its massive cannons obliterating two of the defense platforms in quick succession. The situation looked grim. But Tommy's eyes suddenly lit up with an idea. "Dad, I've got it! The defense platforms and Sandbox One, they're all using variations of the same field technology. If we can link them together, amplify their output..." John quickly grasped his son's plan. "It just might work, but we'll need to coordinate with both Sandbox One and EDA Command." As father and son worked feverishly to implement Tommy's inspired strategy, the battle raged on in orbit. Earth's fate hung in the balance, with humanity's ingenuity and a child's brilliance standing as the last line of defense against an overwhelming alien threat. Invasion. As Tommy's brilliant plan crystallized in John's mind, He swiftly relayed the information to both Sandbox 1 and EDA Command. "We need to synchronize the defense platforms with Sandbox 1's field technology," he explained urgently. "It could create a cumulative effect powerful enough to penetrate the claw of Dominion's shields." On board Sandbox 1, Captain Sarah Chen received the transmission, her eyes widening as she grasped the implications. "All right, team, you heard the man. Let's make this happen." The ship's crew worked feverishly, adjusting systems and realigning field generators. As they did so, the orbital defense platforms around Earth began to power up, their previously hidden forms now revealed as they emerged from stealth modes. Admiral Zex, watching from the bridge of the Claw of Dominion, hissed in surprise. "What trickery is this?" He barked orders to his weapons officers. "Target those platforms! Do not let them fully activate!" The massive Saurian battlecruiser redirected its fire, lances of superheated plasma streaking towards the nearest defense platforms. Two exploded in brilliant flashes of light and debris, but the others held firm, their shields absorbing the brunt of the assault. Back in the hidden bunker, Tommy's fingers flew across the control panel, his young mind processing complex data streams with uncanny speed. "Dad, we need to modulate the frequency of Sandbox 1's shields to match the defense platforms. It's the key to amplifying their power." John nodded, relaying the information to Captain Chen. "Sandbox 1, adjust your shield frequency to match the following parameters." As the instructions were implemented, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Sandbox 1's shields began to pulse with an intense, otherworldly light. The nearby defense platforms responded in kind, their energy fields resonating in perfect harmony. In orbit, Captain Chen watched in awe as her ship's systems registered a massive power surge. "It's working!" she exclaimed. "Weapons? Target the Claw of Dominion's main cannon array. Fire when ready." Sandbox 1 unleashed a beam of pure energy, unlike anything seen before in human warfare. It streaked across space, joined by synchronized blasts from the defense platforms. The combined assault slammed into the Saurian battlecruiser with devastating force. Admiral Zex stumbled as his ship shuddered violently. "Impossible!" he snarled, watching in disbelief as damage reports flooded in. One of the Claw of Dominion's primary weapon arrays had been completely destroyed, leaving a gaping wound in the massive ship's hull. The success of the attack sent a surge of hope through Earth's defenders. In the Nevada facility, the human security forces rallied, pushing back against Captain Kraz and his commando team with renewed vigor. Kraz, his advanced weaponry suddenly rendered inert by an unexpected electromagnetic pulse, found himself facing a group of determined human soldiers, armed with conventional firearms. "Fall back!" he ordered his troops, realizing the tide of battle had shifted against them. As the Saurians retreated from the facility, John made a difficult decision. "Tommy, we need to move. It's not safe here anymore." He guided his son through the winding corridors of the underground complex, using his intimate knowledge of the base to avoid detection. They emerged into the cool night air, the sky above them alight with the flashes of orbital combat. Tommy gasped as he saw Sandbox 1 execute an impossible maneuver, effortlessly evading a barrage of Saurian fighter attacks before returning fire with pinpoint accuracy. "They're doing it, Dad!" Tommy exclaimed, his eyes shining with excitement and pride. John smiled grimly, knowing the battle was just getting started. He activated a secure communication device, contacting EDA headquarters. "This is Dr. Hall. The Nevada facility has been compromised. We need immediate extraction and relocation to a secure site." As they waited for rescue, John and Tommy watched the battle unfold above them. The Claw of Dominion, its defenses breached and its main weapons severely damaged, began to pull back from Earth's atmosphere. Admiral Zex, his scales flushed with anger and humiliation, opened a channel to his home world. "Send reinforcements immediately," he growled. "These humans have proven unexpectedly resourceful." On Sandbox 1, the crew's elation at their success was tempered by a startling discovery. The ship's chief engineer, Dr. Amelia Rodriguez, stared at her console in disbelief. "Captain, you need to see this," she called out. Captain Chen hurried over, her eyes widening as she took in the readings. "Is this accurate?" she asked, her voice hushed with awe. Dr. Rodriguez nodded. "The stress on our propulsion system during the battle has opened up new possibilities. According to these calculations, we may now be capable of faster-than-light travel." The implications of this discovery sent shockwaves through the crew. Humanity, in its desperate battle for survival, had inadvertently unlocked the key to the stars. As the immediate threat subsided, the global response to the invasion kicked into high gear. Military forces around the world mobilized, preparing for the possibility of a larger attack. Scientists and engineers from every nation were called upon to analyze the data from the battle, hoping to glean insights that could improve Earth's defenses. In a secure underground bunker, world leaders convened an emergency session of the United Nations. The United States President, her face grave, addressed the assembly. "We can no longer hide the truth from our citizens. The choice before us now is how to reveal the existence of both the Sandbox Project and the alien threat we face." As the debate raged on, social media platforms exploded with amateur videos and photos of the space battle. Hashtags like "was alien invasion" and "Sandbox Savior" trended globally, as people around the world tried to make sense of the extraordinary events unfolding above them. Back at the ruins of the Nevada facility, John and Tommy emerged from hiding to survey the damage. The once secret base was now a smoldering wreck, evidence of the fierce battle that had taken place there. As they picked their way through the debris, Tommy's attention was drawn to a still-functioning communications array. "Dad, look!" he called out, pointing to a flashing light on the console. John hurried over, his experienced hands quickly decoding the incoming transmission. As the message became clear, his face paled. "Oh no," he breathed. Tommy looked up at his father, concern etched on his young face. "What is it, Dad?" John turned to his son, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and commitment. "The Saurians are assembling a much larger invasion fleet. This battle we just fought, it was only the beginning." As the implications of this news sank in, both father and son knew that the true test of humanity's resilience and ingenuity was yet to come. The stars, now within reach thanks to Sandbox One's breakthrough, offered both promise and peril. The race was on to prepare Earth for the greater threat looming on the horizon. Horizon, a threat that would test the very limits of human ingenuity and resilience. John's grim announcement was interrupted by the sudden whir of approaching helicopters. Within moments, a team of EDA operatives descended on their position, quickly ushering John and Tommy to safety. As they boarded the chopper, Tommy cast one last glance at the smoldering remains of the Nevada facility, a stark reminder of how close they had come to defeat. The helicopter cut through the night sky, its occupants silent as they processed the events of the past few hours. John held Tommy close, his mind racing with the implications of the impending Saurian invasion. They needed to act fast if Earth was to have any chance of survival. As dawn broke, the helicopter touched down at a hidden entrance in the Rocky Mountains. John and Tommy were swiftly escorted through a series of heavily fortified tunnels, eventually emerging into a vast underground command center. The cavernous space hummed with activity, filled with banks of computers, holographic displays, and harried personnel rushing to and fro. Admiral Helena Reeves, the newly appointed head of the Earth Defense Alliance, strode purposefully towards them. "Dr. Hall, Tommy, welcome to Castle Rock," she said, her voice taut with urgency. "We've got a lot of work to do." Over the next few days, as news of the alien threat spread across the globe, John and Tommy found themselves at the heart of Earth's desperate preparations. The command center became a hive of activity, with scientists, military strategists, and world leaders all converging to coordinate humanity's response. Tommy, despite his youth, quickly proved invaluable to the research team. His unique understanding of the Sandbox One design led to breakthrough after breakthrough. In one particularly intense session, Tommy's eyes lit up with inspiration. "What if we modulate the shield frequency to create a cascading effect?" he suggested, his fingers flying over a holographic interface. The assembled engineers looked on in amazement as Tommy's adjustments resulted in a 300% increase in shield strength. John, meanwhile, found himself heading up a crash program to develop planetary defenses. He pored over the data from the captured Saurian technology, working tirelessly to adapt it for Earth's use. "We need to think beyond traditional weaponry," John explained during a high-level briefing. "These energy-based defense platforms could provide a formidable first line of defense against the Saurian fleet." As the days turned into weeks, the fruits of their labor began to take shape. Factories around the world, retooled for wartime production, began churning out ships based on the Sandbox 1 design. Each vessel incorporated Tommy's improvements, boasting enhanced shields and weaponry that would have been unthinkable just months ago. The global mobilization was not without its challenges. Old rivalries and suspicions threatened to undermine the unified front Earth desperately needed. During one particularly heated UN session, broadcast on screens throughout the command center, accusations of resource hoarding and technology theft flew between nations. Admiral Reeves watched the proceedings with a frown. "We can't afford this infighting," she muttered to John. "Every moment we waste bickering is a moment we're not preparing for the Saurians." John nodded grimly. "Maybe what we need is more concrete intelligence on the Saurian plans. Something to really drive home the threat we're facing." The Admiral's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" Within hours, a plan was hatched. A small team would infiltrate a secret Saurian outpost on Mars, gathering crucial intelligence on the invaders' tactics and technology. John, despite Tommy's protests, volunteered to join the mission. "I need to go, son," John explained gently, kneeling to meet Tommy's eyes. "My expertise could make the difference between success and failure." Tommy's lip quivered, but he stood tall. "I understand, Dad. I'll keep working here. I think I'm close to cracking their cloaking technology." As John prepared for the perilous journey to Mars, Earth's first space fleet neared completion. But even as humanity's defenses grew stronger, new threats emerged. Reports of sabotage at production facilities began to trickle in, pointing to the unsettling possibility of Saurian infiltrators. Admiral Reeves ordered an immediate security crackdown. "We can't afford any setbacks now," she declared. "Find these infiltrators and neutralize them, whatever it takes." The day of the Mars mission dawned clear and cold. John suited up alongside a team of elite soldiers and scientists, their faces set with perseverance as they boarded the prototype stealth ship. As the vessel prepared for launch, John caught sight of Tommy watching from a nearby observation deck. He raised a hand in farewell, silently promising to return. The journey to Mars was fraught with tension, every moment carrying the risk of detection by Saurian patrols. But John's team persevered, eventually touching down undetected near the hidden Saurian outpost. Infiltrating the alien base proved even more challenging. John's heart pounded as they crept through alien corridors, the risk of discovery constant. In a stroke of luck, they managed to access the outpost's central computer core. "My God!" John breathed as he sifted through the Saurian battle plans. "The scale of this invasion, it's beyond anything we imagined." Their success was short-lived. An alarm blared, and the team found themselves in a desperate firefight. John clutched the data drive containing the stolen intelligence as they fought their way back to their ship, Saurian energy blasts sizzling past their heads. As the stealth ship blasted off from Mars, pursued by Saurian fighters, John allowed himself a moment of hope. They had the intelligence. Now it was a race against time to get it back to Earth and prepare for the coming storm. Back on Earth, Tommy's breakthrough in disrupting Saurian cloaking devices provided a crucial advantage. As he demonstrated the technology to Admiral Reeves and the EDA leadership, a palpable sense of anticipation filled the room. "With this," Tommy explained, his voice steady despite his youth, "we can strip away their ability to hide. We can see them coming." As Earth's defenses neared completion and the first reports of the approaching Saurian armada came in, a tense calm settled over the planet. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Tommy stood before a massive holographic display of the solar system, watching as countless red dots representing the Saurian fleet drew ever closer. Admiral Reeves placed a hand on Tommy's shoulder. Your father would be proud, she said softly. Thanks to you, we have a fighting chance. Tommy nodded, his young face set with dedication. As klaxons began to sound throughout the base, signaling the imminent arrival of the Saurian invasion force, he squared his shoulders. The greatest battle in human history was about to begin, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. Balance. The klaxons blared throughout the Rocky Mountain Command Center as the massive holographic display lit up with countless red dots, each representing a Saurian vessel entering the solar system. Tommy's eyes widened as he took in the sheer scale of the invasion force. Admiral Reeves's voice cut through the tension. All stations, battle positions. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as personnel rushed to their stations. Tommy found himself ushered to a secure area where he could continue monitoring the battle and provide real-time analysis. In orbit, Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the newly upgraded Sandbox 1, her hands gripping the command console as she surveyed the approaching armada. The ship hummed with energy, Tommy's latest innovations integrated seamlessly into its systems. All hands, prepare for engagement, Chen announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Remember your training. We're the tip of the spear. As the Saurian fleet entered range, Earth's defenses sprang to life. The global network of ground-based energy weapons lit up the night sky, their beams lancing into space. Orbital platforms added their firepower to the mix, creating a dazzling display of destructive force. High Commander Novak, aboard the Saurian flagship, observed the unexpected resistance with a mixture of surprise and grudging respect. Impressive, he growled, but futile. Launch the first wave. Thousands of Saurian fighters poured from their carrier ships, swarming towards Earth like a plague of locusts. The human fleet moved to intercept, with Sandbox 1 leading the charge. The battle erupted in Earth's orbit, a furious dance of energy beams, missiles, and explosions. Sandbox 1 weaved through the chaos with unmatched agility, its advanced maneuverability allowing it to outperform the Saurian ships at every turn. Target locked, Chen's weapons officer called out. Firing main cannon. A brilliant beam of energy lanced out from Sandbox 1, cutting through 3 Saurian fighters in rapid succession. The human pilots, witnessing the ship's prowess, felt a surge of confidence. If Sandbox 1 could do it, so could they. Back in the Rocky Mountain Command Center, John Hall coordinated the planetary defenses with laser-like focus. He watched as Tommy's breakthrough in disrupting Saurian cloaking technology was implemented across the board. Activating anti-cloaking measures now, John announced. On screens throughout the command center, previously hidden Saurian ships suddenly blinked into view. The revelation turned the tide in several key engagements, as Earth's forces could now target their enemies with pinpoint accuracy. Admiral Reeves nodded in approval. Well done, Dr. Hall. Tommy's work is saving countless lives today. The battle raged on, with the orbital defense platforms proving their worth. Multiple Saurian capital ships fell to their concentrated fire, great plumes of debris marking their destruction. Just as the tide seemed to be turning in Earth's favor, alarms blared throughout the command center. John's face paled as he read the incoming reports. Admiral, we have a situation, he said urgently. Multiple explosions reported at key manufacturing plants. Our supply chain for replacement parts and ammunition is in jeopardy. Admiral Reeves cursed under her breath. The saboteurs! They picked one hell of a time to strike. She turned to her communications officer. Activate all backup facilities immediately. We need to keep our forces supplied at all costs. John worked feverishly to redirect resources and mitigate the damage, but the sabotage had done its work. Earth's ability to replenish its forces had been significantly hampered. In space, High Commander Novak observed the unexpected resilience of Earth's defenses with growing frustration. These humans are more resourceful than we anticipated, he growled. It's time to change our strategy. Prepare a force to assault their moon. We'll use it as a forward base for a prolonged siege. As a significant portion of the Saurian fleet broke off towards the moon, Sandbox 1 and a squadron of Earth's best pilots rushed to intercept. The lunar surface became a new battlefield, with human and Saurian forces clashing in the harsh, low-gravity environment. Tommy, still monitoring the battle from the command center, noticed something odd in the Saurian attack formations. His mind raced as he analyzed the patterns, a theory forming. "Dr. Rodriguez," he called out to the chief engineer, "I think I've found something. The Saurian ships, they might be vulnerable to a specific frequency of electromagnetic pulse." Dr. Rodriguez hurried over, her eyes widening as she reviewed Tommy's findings. "My God, you might be right. If we can develop an EMP weapon tuned to this frequency, we could disable large numbers of their ships simultaneously," Tommy finished, his excitement palpable. As Tommy and the science team worked furiously to develop a prototype EMP weapon, the battle for Earth intensified. Despite the valiant efforts of the Planetary Shield Network, several major cities suffered damage from orbital bombardment. The EDA made the difficult decision to begin evacuating civilians to vast underground shelters. John Hall, seeing the prototype EMP weapon as a potential game-changer, made a fateful decision. "Admiral," he said, his voice resolute, "I volunteer to lead a strike team to deploy Tommy's weapon. We can use one of our stealth ships to infiltrate the heart of the Saurian fleet." Admiral Reeves hesitated, knowing the risks of such a mission. But with Earth's forces stretched to their limit, they needed a decisive action to turn the tide. "Very well, Dr. Hall," she said finally. "Assemble your team, and Godspeed." As John prepared for his perilous mission, a new threat emerged. Long-dormant Saurian sleeper agents, hidden among Earth's population, launched a coordinated series of attacks on key infrastructure and military installations. The EDA found itself fighting a war on two fronts, with precious resources diverted to counter this internal sabotage. In the chaos of battle, John Hall's stealth ship slipped away from Earth, carrying with it humanity's last, best hope for survival. As they navigated through the debris-strewn battlefield towards the heart of the Saurian fleet, John thought of Tommy, working tirelessly in the command center. The fate of Earth now rested on the shoulders of a father and his brilliant young son. The stealth ship weaved through the chaos, its advanced cloaking technology keeping it hidden from Saurian sensors. John and his team watched in tense silence as massive battles unfolded around them, the void of space lit up by energy weapons and explosions. "We're approaching the center of their fleet," the pilot announced, her voice tight with concentration. "Saurian flagship dead ahead." John nodded, gripping the EMP device tightly. "Take us in close. We need to be sure this hits as many of their ships as possible." As they closed in on their target, a stray piece of debris clipped their wing, sending the stealth ship into a spin. Alarms blared as the pilot fought to regain control. "We've lost our cloak!" she shouted. John's heart raced as he saw Saurian fighters turning towards them, energy weapons charging. They were out of time. It was now or never. "Everyone brace yourselves," he called out. "Activating the EMP. Now!" "Now!" John shouted, activating the device. A blinding pulse of energy erupted from the EMP weapon, engulfing the stealth ship and radiating outward. The pursuing Saurian fighters suddenly went dark, their energy weapons powering down as they drifted aimlessly in space. John's heart raced as he surveyed the immediate effects. "It worked," he breathed, a mix of relief and excitement in his voice. "But we need to get closer to the main fleet." The pilot, her hands steady on the controls, nodded grimly. "Hang on, everyone. This is going to be a bumpy ride." As the stealth ship pushed deeper into the heart of the Saurian armada, John's communicator crackled to life. Tommy's voice, tinged with static but unmistakably urgent, came through. "Dad, I've spotted a weakness in their formation. There's a gap near the flagship. If you can reach it, you might be able to take out their command structure." John's eyes widened as he processed the information. "Good work, son," he replied, his chest swelling with pride. "We're on it." He turned to the pilot. "You heard him. Push this bird to its limits. We're going for their flagship." The stealth ship surged forward, its advanced propulsion system, a testament to Tommy's original design, allowing it to outmaneuver the disoriented Saurian vessels. As they approached the imposing bulk of the alien flagship, John couldn't help but marvel at the technological leap that had brought them to this moment. On Earth, Tommy watched the holographic display with breathless expectation. The situation planetside was deteriorating rapidly. Reports flooded in of Saurian sleeper agents seizing control of major cities. The lunar battle, visible as a cluster of flashing lights on the display, seemed to be tilting in favor of the alien forces. Admiral Reeves's voice cut through the tension in the command center. Sandbox 1 reports critical levels of ammunition and fuel. They're preparing for a final stand to defend the moon base. Tommy's mind raced, analyzing the data streaming across his screens. He noticed a pattern in the Saurian communications, a centralized structure that seemed to emanate from the flagship. An idea began to form, a potential key to turning the tide of the entire invasion. Meanwhile, John's team had successfully breached the outer defenses of the Saurian flagship. As they made their way through the alien corridors, they encountered fierce resistance. Energy bolts sizzled past their heads as they ducked behind bulkheads and returned fire. John, drawing on years of engineering experience, quickly identified critical systems as they advanced. He planted explosive charges at key junctions, laying the groundwork for a catastrophic chain reaction if needed. "We need to reach the control room," John shouted over the din of battle. "It's our best chance to disrupt their entire fleet." As they fought their way deeper into the ship, Tommy's voice came through John's communicator once more. "Dad, I've made a breakthrough. Their entire fleet operates on a centralized command structure. If you can disrupt the flagship's control, it could throw the whole invasion force into chaos." John's team finally breached the entrance to the control room, finding themselves face-to-face with a contingent of Saurian elite guards. The aliens, towering and heavily armored, charged forward with surprising speed. What followed was a brutal close-quarters battle. John ducked under a swinging energy blade, feeling the heat of it pass inches from his face. He retaliated with a well-placed shot from his sidearm, downing one of the guards. His team fought with equal ferocity, their training and desperation giving them an edge against the larger, stronger aliens. Slowly, they pushed their way into the control room. In the chaos of the fight, John spotted the central command console. He knew this was their chance. With a grunt of effort, he broke away from the melee and sprinted towards it. "Cover me!" he shouted, pulling out the EMP device. His team redoubled their efforts, forming a protective circle around him as he worked. John's fingers flew over the alien controls, his mind translating years of theoretical knowledge into practical application. Just as he finished the final calibrations, a massive figure loomed over him. John looked up to see High Commander Novak, the Saurian leader, his alien features twisted in a snarl of rage. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. John's hand hovered over the activation switch of the EMP device. Novak's energy weapon hummed with deadly potential, aimed squarely at John's chest. "You have lost, human," Novak growled, his voice a deep rumble. "Your planet will fall, as all others have before it." John met the alien's gaze steadily. "I don't think so," he replied, and pressed the switch. A massive pulse erupted from the flagship, far more powerful than the initial burst from the stealth ship. It cascaded through the linked Saurian vessels, carried along the very command structure that had been their strength. Throughout the solar system, thousands of alien ships suddenly lost power. They drifted helplessly in space, their weapons and shields offline. On Earth, Tommy watched in awe as the holographic display lit up with the effects of the pulse. Cheers erupted throughout the command center as the implications became clear. Admiral Reeves wasted no time. "All forces, this is our chance. Counterattack now." Sandbox 1, despite its depleted resources, led a daring assault on the lunar Saurian base. The planetary defense grid concentrated its fire on the now vulnerable enemy capital ships. Throughout the solar system, the tide of battle shifted dramatically in humanity's favor. Back on the flagship, John stood face-to-face with High Commander Novak. The Saurian leader's weapon had been rendered useless by the EMP, but he was still a formidable physical presence. It's over, John said firmly. Your fleet is in ruins. You have a choice to make, Commander. Retreat or face total destruction. Novak's alien features were hard to read, but John sensed a mix of anger, disbelief, and, surprisingly, a grudging respect. How? Novak demanded. How did you primitive humans manage this? John thought of Tommy, of the accidental design that had started it all, of the countless men and women who had worked tirelessly to defend their home. We're full of surprises, he replied simply. Novak seemed to consider for a long moment. Around them, the sounds of battle began to fade as news of the Saurian fleet's incapacitation spread. Finally, the alien commander spoke. Very well, human. We will withdraw. But know this, the galaxy will hear of what transpired here today. As Novak turned to order the retreat, John allowed himself a small smile. Somehow, against the odds, they had done it. Earth had stood its ground against a technologically superior foe and emerged victorious. But John knew the work was nowhere near the end. As he watched the Saurian armada begin its retreat, he thought of the challenges that lay ahead, rooting out the remaining sleeper agents, securing the captured alien technology, rebuilding what had been destroyed. Yet for the first time since the invasion began, he felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity had proven itself capable of incredible things when united against a common threat. Whatever the future held, they would face it together. John activated his communicator. Tommy, he said, his voice thick with emotion, we did it, son. We really did it. As the news of victory spread across Earth, a new chapter in human history began to unfold.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.